Welcome to the Political Matrix News. We have the sources, we have the truth from inside the political matrix.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Political Matrix News. Today is February 5th, 2025, my birthday today, actually. And I turn 45 again. I do.
45. I didn't know it was your birthday. Happy birthday, Greg.
Yes, I keep getting younger every day.
Right.
At this rate, I'll be 35 next year.
Well, 45 becomes 47, right?
Yeah, whatever. Maybe about 50s, maybe.
Well, that's the Trump way of counting presidencies. That's where I got those numbers.
Exactly. And I'm joined here tonight with Mike Bates over there in Pensacola, Florida. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Well, I think we have a really, really interesting time here with the president already 15 days in. Only 15 days, that's it.
It seems like longer than that, doesn't it? Yeah.
The Democrats who are totally lost their Nikes. In fact, they filed impeachment charges already today about the Gaza thing. That's one thing we'll talk about the press conference that we encourage everybody to go and find and download because it was the most entertaining presidential press conference I've ever seen in my life, just watching the media going completely wild about President Donald J. Trump very politely saying, we're going to take this land. It's going to be America. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you. I love the press conference in that it showed our alliance with Israel is strong. I love that. Mm-hmm. I love the part of the press conference where Donald Trump made it very clear that Iran will not obtain nuclear weapons.
Right.
I appreciated that. I appreciated the part about him saying that Hamas must be eradicated from Gaza, and that if that doesn't happen, then the war is not won, and Israel is going to be allowed to win the war. I liked all that. I will tell you, the part about, oh, yeah, we're taking the Gaza, I'm like, what? I question that one. It's like, come on, Donald. I like the idea, but it's got to be constitutional. You can't just have the President of the United States say, oh, yeah, we're going to add this territory over to the Middle East. We're going to kick 1 million people out of their land and just take it over, even if it is leveled and decimated and flattened. And what was the term he used? A demolition site.
I mean, it's literally like the fires in L.A. I mean, it's literally like telling everybody in L.A. that evacuated, go back home now. I mean, they can't. And so, I mean, it's the same kind of conditions. And so, I mean, and for some reason, people are trying to sell the idea that they want to, and they're longing to come home to live in the rubble so they can have a pillow, with a sharp rock as a pillow and their sharp rock as a blanket. I mean,
well, are you talking about Los Angeles or Gaza?
Both. I mean, Gaza right now. I mean, because the media is saying that everybody wants to come back to Gaza. They want to come home. They want to come home to what? There's nothing there.
Well, it's still their home. I mean, it's their rubble, but it's still their home. And I would want to go home. Look, after a hurricane, I mean, if you take it to what we experienced here in Florida, after a hurricane, and when Hurricane Ivan hit in 2000, was it 4 or 5? It was 4, right? Okay. September 16th, 2004. Yep. I was out of my home for like 7 months. Yep. I evacuated because we were expecting a Cat 5. If I'd have known it was a Cat 3, I'd have just sat through it. But we were expecting a 5. And so I did evacuate, even though my home was north of 98. And for those that don't know, it's basically a coastal highway. So I was probably okay from normal storm surge. But if it was a Cat 5, I need to get out of there. There were a lot of trees that I was within the falling radius of. So I got out. And our house did have substantial damage. Now, fortunately, it was not due to rising water. And fortunately, it was not due to a tree coming through the roof. But it was due to the winds blowing portions of the roof shingles off. And when that happens, the water comes in and gets a lot of stuff wet, right? So I was out of my home for, I think, 7 months. Now, initially, I was able to go back in a matter of days, but I was eager to get back. I wanted to be at my home, right? So I completely get it. Even though you know your home is damaged, or in the case of Gaza, probably destroyed, it's still your home. You still want to go back. So I don't question the legitimacy of people wanting to go back.
Okay.
The question is, what are you going to do to rebuild it? And first of all, I don't want American taxpayers rebuilding it, period. But two, how are we going to just take it over as an American property? And that is the word that Donald Trump used. And I'm watching
I
that,
kind of think
thinking,
Netanyahu is going to give it to us.
well, Netanyahu was sort of standing there.
Rather, I mean, it's a peace offering to give us the land more so than having terrorists sit there and bomb the hell out of them and making Israel look just like Gaza over and over again. Because, I mean, the reality here is if you do any kind of rebuild, which at this rate will take probably 10 or 15 years because they're not as advanced as America is at rebuilding. I mean, nothing over there is as advanced.
Well, now wait a minute. We sent them all kinds of concrete and steel and rebar and all kinds of things, and they were pretty good in constructing what? Tunnels for their weapons, and so that they can move Hamas fighters around.
They only know how to kill people.
Well, I know that. So I'm not saying they don't know how to build. They clearly do. The question is, should they be allowed to rebuild? And look, I think it would be great if every Gazan was evacuated and removed from Gaza. I think that'd be fantastic. I just don't think how it's legal. So while I support the goal,
the legality of this,
that legality matters to me. You know, that's the first thing I look at is this legal?
I think it is.
And I just wonder how it is. And look, I'm not saying it isn't. I mean, clearly Donald Trump has advisors in the White House that must have told them the legal method that can be used for this, but he hasn't shared it yet.
I think the biggest question here is Gaza a part of the Israel state or is it an independent state? And now, since it's not an independent state, it still belongs to Israel, correct?
Well, see, that matters too if you look at the historical context, because Gaza was actually historically part of Egypt, okay? And Israel took it in war that they didn't start. Well, since the United Nations were not supposed... No, Israel didn't start that war. They finished the war. I'm not talking about the October 7th. I'm talking about in the war in 1966 war. Israel took the Gaza Strip when they took the West Bank and they took the Golan Heights. And they took the Sinai, too. They gave the Sinai back to Egypt with the Egypt-Israel peace treaty.
Right.
But since the United Nations Charter, and look, as much as we want to complain about the UN, and there is a lot to complain about with the United Nations, the reality is that if you're a member state, you're not supposed to acquire land through war. So that's why I wonder how on earth they're going to be able to justify legally doing it, because Gaza is historically a part of Egypt. But Egypt doesn't want the Palestinians back, and they don't even want the Gaza Strip back. See, the other option is, okay, Egypt, just take the Gaza Strip back. Egypt doesn't want that either because they know that the majority of the people living in Gaza are either terrorists or soon-to-be terrorists. And am I painting with a broad brush? You're damn straight I'm painting with a broad brush because it's true. There was a survey there was a survey done by an Arab polling company in Gaza questioning residents of Gaza whether or not they supported the October 7th invasion of Israel by Hamas. And this was a couple months after it occurred when Gaza was getting decimated by the IDF. 97% of the residents said they favored it. So I don't want to hear this innocent civilian crap.
They're not innocent.
They are 97% of them apparently guilty. And the only difference between an active terrorist and someone supporting a terrorist is whether they're willing to kill or if they're just going to cheer you on when you kill.
I mean,
so as far as I'm concerned, they should all suffer the consequences of their desires.
I mean, in my opinion, and I think the reality is that there is really no way to have peace there except for America to broker it in the way they're doing. Now, I mean, granted, we all make fun of Trump and his big hotels and his big construction rhetoric and everything else, about wanting to do all this and do all that. However, I mean, this is kind of what you get whenever you put a real estate developer in charge of the country. You get guys who look at things from a real estate developer point of view. And his point of view basically is that, and also on the peace side, the peacekeeping side, there's no way to fund any group over there to rebuild Gaza or to fix Gaza where everybody can come back safely without it being America. You give it to Hezbollah or Hamas or any other, Palestinian or Saudi Arabian or Iranian or any kind of the governments, they're going to go ahead and use that funding. Majority of it is going to be used for militarization.
Well, you clearly don't want to give any of it to Iran. Iran's got to be excluded, Greg. But
I mean, they're not going to be getting any kind of funding for rebuilding or for the care of the people. In fact, they care about the people so little that they left all these bombs and munitions over there that still had to be detonated. I mean, they just left them there for the kids to play with and the wives to play with, or the donkeys to trip over. I mean, they don't care about the people. All they're
That's true.
using them for the political expediency to destroy the Jews. That's it.
That's correct. That is all they care about. They hate life if it
And we
means
love life.
living. If it means living with
America's
Jews.
a lover
Okay?
of life.
They want Israel destroyed. That is their only goal, and whatever they suffer to them, it's secondary. But you mention about who can rebuild Gaza,
America.
regardless of whether. Well, but see, I disagree with that. The
Well,
Saudis certainly have. The Saudis certainly have capability to do
They're
that.
willing to use that money
Jordan
and everything
certainly
else.
has
They are
the
not
capability to
trustworthy.
do it, but they don't want to, right? They don't
Yeah,
want to.
even if they wanted to, they would not be trustworthy enough in order to do it, to run the whole thing without it being compromised, and without a lot of the money being ciphered off.
Oh, I don't know why you say that. I don't know why you say
Well,
that. No, look.
Because a lot of the money we send over
Saudis-
there ends up in weaponry.
You ever been to Dubai?
Okay, I haven't been to Saudi. Okay, maybe the Saudis
Well,
are
okay, well, I haven't been
to.
to Saudi
I've
Arabia
never
either,
been
but I
to-
have been
I've
to
never been
Dubai,
to
and I've
Dubai,
seen, I've been there, and I've seen the explosive growth that has happened over the last half
Dubai
century.
is growing great. Kuwait is growing great. There's wonderful wealth and huge skyscrapers.
So it's
80 stories high, 100
unfair to
stories
say
high.
that only the United States could build this. Other places
No,
are
I'm saying
perfectly
that
capable.
only the United States can be trusted with the funding to build it properly without it being ciphered off into their own area.
Well, what I'm saying is the United States doesn't fund it at all. Let the Saudis fund it. Let Jordan fund it. Let the
I
Emiratis
agree with
fund
that.
it. I don't want a single dollar taxpayers' money going, American taxpayer money going over there. But the place that I have the question with the legality of it all is, how are we going to make this an American territory? It's like, Donald, what are you thinking here? If it brings about peace in the region, and I believe that he believes that it would, that's one thing. But when he said last night at that press conference, and he didn't directly say it, but he intimated that he was willing to send American troops to keep the peace in Gaza, that is absolutely a no-go. Because can you imagine American troops trying to stand on the street corners and protect the people of Gaza and keep the peace? They'd be killed in terrorist attacks. But if you get the Saudis to do that, or you get the Jordanians to do that, or you get the Emiratis to do that, then all of a sudden, now at least it's, Arab. And so you're not going to have the kind of terrorism against those nations that you would have against the United States. We don't need to be setting the first American boot on the ground in Gaza, period. And I see no circumstances where I would change my mind on that. None.
I think the whole conceptualization of what he's trying to go with is making this an international area, international city, driven by Americanism and driven by America's presence, America's ownership, and then us resulting on benefiting from the results of the spending and the marketing of the whole area.
Sure, I know what he said, and I understand his goal, but you still got to clear 1.5 million people from the land. Where are they going to go? Jordan already says they're not willing to take them. Egypt has already said they're not willing to take them. I don't see Saudi Arabia jumping in and saying they're willing to take them. The Emiratis sure aren't going to do it.
Mexico is going to give us 25% tariffs, and so is Canada, until we got down to nuts and bolts. I mean, everything's up for a conversation.
The reality is nobody wants the Palestinians, and the Palestinians brought it on themselves.
That's sad.
It is sad.
I mean, why
but there's a saying, FAFO, right? Fool around and find out. Now, some people use a different word at the beginning of that, but same meaning. Fool around and find out. Well, the imbeciles of Gaza, Hamas, the terrorists over there, they fooled around and found out. And just the other day, Hamas leadership said there will be another October 7th.
Well,
we will attack Israel again. Here they are decimated. And they're willing to say, we will do it again. They see what happened. They got their asses kicked. And they're still willing to do it again because they hate Israel more than they love themselves.
This is where America comes in. I mean, they have to have a presence there dominant enough to put everything else down and put everybody else down. It's to end this once and for all.
Do you really want American military personnel guarding the street corners or guarding the doors to buildings over there?
No, I don't.
They'd be killed. They'd be killed in terrorist attacks, car bombs, snipers, who knows what. We don't want that. Absolutely
no, we do not. We do not want troops over there. I agree with you on that. What we do want
Donald Trump intimated he'd send them.
He did, and you're correct. But there's enough unmanned drones and other types of military that we have that we can do a very high presence over there without putting anybody on the ground.
Well, I have no problem providing intel as long as it's other nations whose servicemen are on the ground. And it's not that I want those nations killed either. I just think those nations' personnel would be less likely to be killed than Americans would.
Yeah, I mean, and also by the press conference last night, I think whenever he's talking about the nuclear option here with Iran, I think we definitely are en route to go ahead and put the cabal on Iran if anything happens whatsoever toward the nuclear option. Although
that was my favorite part
already. I think
that was my favorite part. Almost there to what? Having the bomb?
Yeah, nuclear weapon, yeah.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, they're very close. They've been enriching uranium like crazy. They're very close. And they may even have enough enriched uranium already. We don't really know. The International Atomic Energy Agency, they don't know. They say that they're not, but they don't know because they've been denied inspections.
Exactly.
Right?
They have no
idea.
They
have to give advance notice of where they want to inspect. And then what happens? Well, you can't inspect there. Oh, no, we insist on it. Well, you can't. And then a week later, they're like, okay, fine. Come on. Well, they had time to move it. Exactly. So we don't know what Iran has going. But the one thing that I heard in that press conference yesterday was a very clear commitment from Donald Trump that Iran will not be allowed to obtain nuclear weapons. Right. That is critical to not just the peace of Israel and the region, but to the entire planet. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would not have made that statement.
Yeah, they would not.
In fact, if you look at the history of Joe Biden, supported by Kamala Harris, because remember, she said there was not a single policy that he had that she would have done differently. He freed up $60 billion. Now, it was Iranian money, but it was being sanctioned and held in U.S. banks. He gave them back $60 billion. He didn't have to. He also lifted the sanctions that Donald Trump had imposed on oil, allowing Iran to make billions of dollars in oil money. And what did they do with that money? They funded Hezbollah, they funded Hamas, and they funded the Houthis in Yemen. Mm-hmm. And look what that got us. So
Nothing.
Iran needs to be denied nuclear weapons at literally, Greg, any cost. Any cost.
Yes.
They cannot be allowed to have nuclear weapons because if they are going to get nukes, that cost will be higher than any cost of preventing it.
I agree. Now, on the next topic here, I think we're going to talk about the DOJ and the FBI people doing a class action lawsuit against the DOJ to try to keep their names private because they're terrified of the January 6ers coming in, doxing them and hurting them and killing them.
Well, first of all, there's two lawsuits. One of them is a class action. The other is not, but they're representing two different groups of agents. But the FBI has released those names to the Department of Justice by employee number.
Right.
So far, it's not even names. And I don't see the names being made public. But I also don't see how you can necessarily prevent that. I mean, they are civil servants. They are not in some classified role. That's kind of a matter of public record, right? Yeah. So I don't see how under the law that list can be suppressed.
Yeah.
Although the lawsuits were filed anonymously. So they're not even on the lawsuit names. They were filed anonymously. So it's apparently Special Agent John Doe and Special Agent Jane Doe.
So what are they afraid of? I mean, it's really...
Well, they say they're afraid of the Trump-tards and the January 6th insurrectionists launching attacks on them, right? But the reality is they're afraid of being investigated and being found to have been corrupt. That's what they're really afraid of.
Cartels, when they go after the cartels, do they do this under the cartels? Do they ask for all their anonymity then? When they go after drug dealers or the mafia or big, corporations, do they ask for anonymity or sue the DOJ to keep them anonymous then?
No. If an FBI agent is called as a witness for some big investigation, his name is known in the public.
The Black Lives Matter, I think, let me correct myself, not hardly anybody got arrested. But in theory, if all those people who burned all the buildings down and kidnapped all those people and killed all those people, and took the police squadrons and the police precincts and all that. They're not afraid of them. They didn't do anything against them. So
yeah, I think
they're afraid of the January 6th guys who were storming a Capitol, kind of like the February 4th guys were yesterday, storming the Treasury Department.
Yeah, but what these people are really afraid of, these FBI agents, they are saying they are afraid of the January 6th insurrectionists. Okay?
They're afraid of being
what they're really afraid of is being held accountable for misconduct. That's what they're really afraid of. And I'm not saying all of them engaged in misconduct.
No. The other side
There's
of the
certainly
letter,
some who did.
6,000 people, 6,000 FBI agents were that cowardice to go and sue the deal. I mean, I think that's 6,000 new employees. That's 6,000 job openings. You know, I mean, come on, guys. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I can imagine a scenario where some left-leaning judge will put an injunction on it, and it will take a long time to work its way up the appellate court system, and eventually what has been requested by the administration will be determined lawful.
Right.
That's been, for the most part, the track record of the Donald Trump administration 1.0, and it looks like it's going to be the track record of this one as well, is that the lefties are going to sue. They're going to get a favorable court ruling. It's going to take a long time to work its way up the appellate courts, only to discover that, yeah, what the president said he wanted to do was perfectly legal all along, but it's now been delayed 18 to 24 months because of the lawsuits.
I mean,
that's what they're really after.
They impeached Trump over a phone call with Ukraine, 8-9 years ago. Now they're going to impeach him again over a phone call with Netanyahu about Gaza.
Well, of course, they're not going to impeach him. I mean, as long as there's a Republican majority in the House, they're not going to impeach him. But if in the midterms the Democrats regain the majority, well, all bets are off at that point. I believe they would impeach him.
Well, a new pandemic.
Well, that's also possible. You know, this bird flu apparently is being touted as the next COVID.
It is. I mean
got to have something to keep the populace afraid.
Fauci's still around, or Fauci followers are still working in the health department now, I'm sure. Because, Fauci and USAID and everything else, and them paying the Wuhan lab $40 million, and this doesn't look good.
Yeah, well, apparently Fauci's got his fingerprints on this bird flu as well.
Yeah.
Apparently this was a gain-of-function research
he has
also
his
done.
fingers on all kinds of things that he gets his fingers in and out of, and in and out of, and he's weird.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a bit of a nutcase, but I actually think he'll do a good job heading the...
I mean, I guess the votes can be next week to confirm him or not, right?
Right, correct. Hey, Bondi got it confirmed today.
Yeah, she got confirmed today.
Actually, it was last night. It was last night.
46. It's almost a party line vote, which I thought was very interesting. Only one Democrat crossed over.
Mm-hmm. And that was Fetterman, right?
Yeah.
Fetterman of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, he seems to be the new Manchin of the Democrat Party, while McConnell is becoming the new McCain Party.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah,
and
very good way to put it.
McConnell's the new McCain, and Fetterman's the new Manchin. So, and it's going to be one interesting. It's already been interesting 15 days already. I mean, it's mind blowing how much he has done without even Congress's help. And basically, we see these Democrats lining up every day, shouting and screaming about the USAID and all the other cuts that Elon Musk is making. They keep on saying that he's not elected, and I keep saying, half the people you guys have in charge aren't elected.
The perfect response to the Elon Musk is not elected argument, which I too have heard them make, is that's correct. I mean, you agree with them because it's a true statement. Elon Musk is not elected, but Elon Musk is not the one implementing the policy. Elon Musk is recommending the policy, and the president is taking his recommendations and implementing them.
Exactly.
But Elon Musk has no power. What Elon Musk has is influence. And the president is entitled to get advice from whoever he wants to get advice from.
He obviously also has the numbers that, by the way, are transparently public record. It should be. The whole idea that most of these numbers are supposed to be hidden and not seen or not found, to me, is very troubling that the Democrats are so used to working in the dark and so much behind the scenes that they have to hide all the money. Otherwise, they're so embarrassed about how much they're basically enslaving this nation. I mean, they are screwing us every which way by billions of dollars they're stealing, while their people are starving in their districts. They're homeless in their districts. I mean, they could just take a little bit of this aid money and just throw it in their districts and, build homes and get everybody food and build jobs.
All right, so Greg, I have to ask. I mean, it's not that I'm against feeding people, but where the hell are your priorities? Wait a minute, let me ask the question. Where the hell are your priorities? Don't you realize we have to fund a transgender play in Colombia?
No, we do not.
I mean, is that not more important than feeding people in the United States?
I disagree. I happen to disagree. I do think that feeding people is more important than the plays and the comic books and the literature books and the condoms and everything else that we're giving every other country and all the medicine we're giving Sudan or Ethiopia or this country or that country. I mean, we can't even medicate our own people, guys.
So let me get this straight. You think it's more important to feed Americans and provide health care to Americans than it is to provide DEI programs across the globe? What kind of hater are you?
I'm a hater that thinks DEI should DIE. I mean, the whole idea here is that, it's America first. I mean, it's American people first, and it's our children, our families. I mean, we have all these people who are coming over the border. Basically, right now, the people that come over the border is down 92%, I think, since it was before the presidency. So not very many people are coming over anymore. But the people that are over here that are not going back yet, I mean, the whole idea here that it's okay to stick 10 or 20 guys in an apartment and give them, these wages of like $3 or $4 a day, to me is just totally wrong. How people are treating a lot of the migrant workers in the fields and in the farming communities and everything like that here in Florida and nationwide. But that being said, the criminals have got to go, and the people who are not criminals, until they do go, need to be treated like regular humans. And we need to start funding programs here and returning the money back to home, or just not spending it at all. Lower taxes.
Yeah, well, obviously, though, if they're in the country illegally, they are in the country illegally, and we need to enforce our laws. Now, I actually am in favor of granting permanent legal status to the Dreamers. And
I agree.
I haven't always felt that way, but I'll explain why I do. Early on, when they came across the border, they should have been sent back. But it's been, 20 years in many cases about these Dreamers? And I use two different concepts in law to justify my position of they should be legalized. One is adverse possession, and the other is squatters' rights. And taken together, the established law of squatters' rights and adverse possession means that if somebody takes your stuff, takes your property unlawfully, but you don't do anything about it for a certain period of time, you lose the right to do something about it. And that's the way I feel about the Dreamers. Something should have been done then, but nothing was, and now it's just plain too late. Legalized.
I agree.
All right, so is this Name That Tune? Was I supposed to know what you were just playing?
No, I was playing the banjo while you were talking, because it's a very good story.
All right.
It's it's those kind of stories that that people just really don't understand that this is not about hate on the Republican side. It's not about trying to go after everybody on the Republican side. The Democrats seem to think that we're trying to steal everything from them. They seem to be out here shouting and screaming that everything is a big scandal, a big robbery. All we want is everything to be done right and fairly.
And in the light of day.
In the light of day. Transparently done. Which is, something that, Biden and Kamala and, the entire damn crew with them just cannot get their heads around.
Right. It makes you wonder why they're
It goes all the way back to Hillary Clinton with her other server, her personal email server. It goes back to all of that. It goes back to Bill Clinton and everything else with his secret things of raising money with the Chinese and fundraising for the White House and Al Gore fundraising for the vice presidential headquarters and everything. And nobody willing to be upfront with anything from Whitewater to anything. Basically the whole party is built around hiding and deception and seeing how much they can get away with. The game's over,
Well,
guys. The game's over.
I would love for there to be thousands of federal employees indicted, charged, and convicted of criminal activity through their jobs, not because I want that to have occurred, but because I believe it occurred, and if it occurred, they need to be prosecuted. I would love to see it happen for that reason, to restore some sense that justice will prevail and that we do not have a system in America where the elite in power get to lord over us and profit at the expense of the nation. This is not supposed to be an oligarchy of one party ruling this country. And we have corruption in both parties, but I think you'd be a fool to say it's an equal level of corruption.
In fact, the USAID numbers almost around 95% went to Democrat programs.
Yeah, I heard it was actually 97% of USAID workers donated to Democrat candidates. And let me actually change that way I described that, because that wasn't entirely the right way to word it. I said 97% donated. That's not correct. Of those who donated, 97% of them sent money to Democrats.
Yeah, I think the numbers were, and also the teachers union, I think it's for donations for that, is like 54,000 to Republican candidates and 40 million.
Yeah, the teachers union is also extremely one-sided. Correct.
And so, and that's another part of this whole thing that Elon Musk is doing with the Department of Education. I mean, granted, he can't just, dismantle it because it's a constitutional thing. You need to have Congress to do that, but you can't unfund a lot of the programs inside of there. You can also unfund the personnel who run the programs.
And let's not forget that we didn't have a Department of Education until Jimmy Carter's term, and it was created in Jimmy Carter's term as a payback to the teachers' unions supporting him for president. Now, it used to be that
good, that worked out for us.
Yeah, now it used to be Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, so it's not that we had no federal role in education, but it was during the Carter administration that it was established as its own separate department.
Now,
what do you think live without it.
So what do you think about Trump returning everything back to the states for the DOE?
Well, that would be the constitutional way to do it. And if anybody disagrees with me, show me the word education in the Constitution, and I'll change my mind.
So why you had to have an act of Congress
multiple times? I know.
So you had to have an act of Congress to get rid of the department.
That's correct. Trump can't get rid of it on his own.
So why can't you not get rid of it on its own if it's not constitutional?
Because it was created by Congress, so Congress would have to dismantle it. Yeah. Now, there are certain emergency powers that the president has to redirect funding. I am very wary, though, when any president tries to use those powers to redirect. And the reason is because while I might like it when my guy redirects,
I don't
want the other guy to redirect. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
not a good deal whenever the other guy does it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you could sunset it, that'd be great, but you can't. So, it becomes a little pickle. But yeah, it's been one hell of a week, though.
And I think we're going to see more excitement in the weeks to come. The one thing you got to give Donald Trump 2.0 is that he went out of the gate full speed. He is not holding any punches. He is going full bore and just tearing into it. And while I don't agree with everything he has done, I applaud him overwhelmingly for what he's done. There's a few things that I disagree with, but go, dog, go. I mean, he is not holding back, and this nation is going to be better off because of it.
He is. Well, Mike, thanks for joining me here tonight. And please, folks, remember to subscribe, like, share with us. Anything on social media, our page. We're on Facebook. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter, which is now called X. And if you could, please help us out with that, because the algorithms are still stacked up against us, although they are getting better with the algorithm as far as being a little bit more lenient for our conservative talk. But it is still stacked up against us. So please help us overcome that, and share us and subscribe to us. And thank you so much for watching. Good night.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Mike, for joining us.